It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Ian Rivers. And Ian, we got some wins to talk about for some Bemidji State University teams. And after kind of the last two shows, I feel like we've had kind of a bit of a somber vibe, but it's good to at least get back in the win column and have some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it was not necessarily the worst weekend in the world for the Beavers this week. And it never is, because we're always a Beaver, and so that automatically makes your weekend at minimum like a 5 out of 10. But
exactly.
It was good. Got a couple of wins that make you feel a little bit better about things right now, and the direction that some of these teams are heading. And we'll talk about all that over the next 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, breaking news from the last time we spoke, although I think it happened like right after we stopped recording last week's show. Trent Baalke, Bemidji State University alum, was fired as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're a Bemidji State podcast, so he's always welcome here. As a Beaver, we will say he did some great stuff, but, not necessarily one of the most renowned NFL executives, and certainly not on social media, and not amongst the San Francisco or Jacksonville faithful. It's kind of a weird vibe, because every time I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool to say that a BSU alum was an NFL GM and it gets to like be in that seat, and it's really cool for the program. But then also you got to turn around and go, but don't actually look at anything he did.
Yeah. His body of work is not the most impressive that you've ever seen, but yeah.
That being said, welcome on the show anytime.
Out as the Jacksonville GM. A little bit of controversy there, but things happen. It's the NFL. It's a dramatic
Jacksonville. That's all that matters.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? It's awesome. It's awesome. Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Think about it this way: if he never does that, then the Chargers never get Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, no, probably not. We still haven't won a playoff game with Jim Harbaugh either, but it's only been 1 year, so
the vibes are much different.
The vibes are much better right now than they were after that one, even with a little bit of a embarrassing loss this year as well. There's definitely different vibes around it. So,
yeah, there's your NFL news. Trent Baalke out. With all the NIL stuff, maybe he'll be in the schools hiring general managers. Maybe he'll pop around somewhere back in the college ranks. So until next time, Trent Baalke goes into the great big yonder there and is out in Jacksonville. So there's some other BSU alumni related things there. Moving on, before we get into men's and women's basketball, before we get into hockey, we do want to do some player of the week. And the reason we're doing it right now is because it has a segue tie-in. But Ian, who's our player of the week for the Beaver Banter podcast, first one of 2025?
Player of the week has been a little neglected by us lately, but yeah, it's going to be John Pekarich of the men's basketball team. He had a hell of a weekend. On Friday night, he had 16 points and 4 steals, along with a couple of assists and rebounds. And then in the win on Saturday, he had 20 points, 10 boards, and another 3 assists to that. So a really, really good weekend for John. He's starting to bloom into that kind of player you want to see him be. 4 for 10 from beyond the 3-point arc on Friday in that win, and 4 for 10 on Saturday and Friday. He was 4 for 10 in both, but on Saturday in the win, I should say, he was 4 for 10. So shooting 40% from the 3-point line on the weekend for John, and he is the first Beaver Banter athlete of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And where is he from again?
I believe it's Brainerd.
Brainerd. What does that sound familiar? Has that been in the state?
It's been in the news
headlines lately.
In the news lately. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit of hockey news. A little bit of hockey news coming up. It ruled the news cycle maybe for like a day, like a hockey day, if you will.
Yes.
Something like that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. First, let's talk a little men's basketball. Ian, of course, with Pekarich, they got a split on the weekend, and they snap a 6-game skid to be able to get back in the win column. And overall, again, just for the program, we talked about it was going to be a tough weekend for men's basketball, and mainly just because of who they had to play on Friday night, the number 15 team in the country in Southwest Minnesota State. They lose that one 83-66. And when you look at that game again, that's a tough one. You stayed with them again in the first half, 40-34, and it's really in the second half where they start to kind of pull away on these things. John Sutherland gets 17 points in that game, Pekarich 16, Tate Olson 15, Milan gets 8 in the win. And overall, just one of those where they're a good team. They shot really well once again. They shot 50% from beyond the 3-point line, and overall won you in the rebound battle. I think overall in that game, it's just they're a good team. They're going to do good team things, and you'd like it to be a little bit closer, but sometimes you just got to shrug your shoulders and go, they're a really solid team, and they got the better of us that night.
Yeah, Southwest shot really well in this game, 55% from the field, 50% from three-point line, and they went 12 of 13 for 92.3% at the free throw stripe. So when you just don't give up points by missing shots, I mean, they shot 61% in the second half of the game. That's,
don't miss.
When you're trying to come back, that's a hard number to give up in that column. But yeah, Southwest is a good team, and it just. Yeah, you left yourself in a bit of a hole early, and when they're shooting that hot, it's hard to climb out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Bemidji State on the year, by the way, allowing their opponents to shoot 45.5% from the field, and then when you look at the 3-point percentage, it's about 37% on the year. So that's kind of where things sit with that in terms of just kind of the shooting percentage. Because I've kind of thought about that. I'm like, those last few games, it's been like pretty high. And that's kind of the thing of like, are the percentages high because that's just kind of been an indicator all season, or is that they're having a good game? And I think what we've learned is that some of the better teams in the conference, some of those more high potent offenses are finding ways to get their looks. Whereas, a little bit down the line, it's, you can have success versus most of the NSIC, but then sometimes when you play those teams that are towards the top and they are good at creating their shots and good at getting their stuff, you start to see it overcompensate so much. I don't know. That's kind of the way I've looked at that, because I don't think that the defense has been, I don't think they're just giving up wide open look after look after look after look, but it's just kind of it seems whenever they play those top teams in the conference, you look at their shooting percentages that night and you go, that's a really, really good night. So you try and tell, like, does correlation equal causation? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's hard to defend a team like that. And again, we didn't see these games, so we don't know whether it was like, oh, are you just being lazy on your closeouts, or are they just shooting absolute lights out? But yeah, correlation and causation, like you said, when teams shoot well against you, you're going to have a hard time winning basketball games. So, but fortunately for the Beavers, on Saturday, Sioux Falls did not shoot very well against you, and it was 32% from the field, 29% from three, and 76% from the free throw line. BSU shot pretty well from beyond the arc, 10 of 23 at 43%. Like we said, Pekarich had 20 points in that game. Sutherland added 24, and then Tate Olson and Malang Athan had 15 each. There was not much scoring outside of that. The only other player that had some points was, I believe, Jalen Patterson, who had 2 points off the bench. So yeah, it was not a very deep rotation that night, but the Beavers got it done and won the game 76-68 over Sioux Falls. And that's a massive win for the Beavers, who are now a game clear of 13th place in the NSIC, with some favorable matchups coming up. We can talk about that in a second here over the next couple of weeks.
I think one of the things too, before we kind of look into that, is we talked about the last couple of weeks, Bemidji State's 3-point shooting, and we kind of said, like, it just hasn't felt like it's been there. And then you have a game like that where they shoot 43.5% from 3-point range. That's huge for a team's confidence. That's huge for a team that's really tried to make a lot of 3-point stuff happen, and it hasn't quite materialized yet. But now, again, Pekarich is starting to get in rhythm. He's playing consistently now both nights a week, and that helps out a lot because he gives you that presence down low, which in turn opens things up around the arc, and then they've been able to cash in on those opportunities. And over the last couple of weeks, we just look at the 3-point percentages and go, not quite the game you want. And then now you get a game like this where it's like, okay, that's the way you put it together. You had a good second half. You beat a team in Sioux Falls, by the way. If you look at the record of USF, I mean, in the conference, they're 7-7. They're 11-9 overall. So for you to get a win like that, technically, if you're looking at the standings, it's an upset. And the fact that you can get a win like this shows that, this team is better than its record indicates. It's just got to start piling some wins to get to be able to show that. And like you talked about, Ian, there's a chance that their schedule kind of opens up here.
Absolutely, there is. I mean, they play tonight as of recording this. For those of you who will be listening to this podcast, the game will already have happened because it's on Tuesday night, about an hour and a half from when we're talking to you, in St. Cloud at Hollenbeck Hall against St. Cloud State. And then after that, in St. Cloud State is not necessarily a elite team in this conference. They're currently sitting in 6th place, tied for 5th with Winona State.
88-75 back in December. So there's a little bit of revenge you want to get there.
Right. And if you can win that game, that would be huge because your next 4 games after that are coming against University of Mary, Minnesota Crookston, Northern State, and Augustana. All teams that are directly right around you in that bottom 5 of the conference right there. So if this team wants to have any chance of making a late season push here, the schedule is kind of lining up favorably for them towards the end of the season here with 8 games left. Their final 3 games of the season then after that would be Wayne State, Concordia St. Paul, and Minnesota Duluth. Concordia right now, the only one that is in the top 4 of the conference that the Beavers will have to play for the rest of the year. Wayne and Duluth are kind of in that middle of the pack area. So the Beavers are really having it line up nicely for them right here. If they can get some wins in this last stretch of games, it's going to be important for just getting into the dance. And then, from there, anything can happen. Maybe you go on the road and you get an upset if you can't steal a home playoff game. But just getting in is going to be first priority. And this is good news for them if they can pick up some wins against teams that are currently below them in the standings.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge to try and stack up some of these wins. I don't know how many slots up in the standings you'll be able to move, but just moving up higher in that chain is going to be important because of the fact of you don't want to match up against and again, the bracket off the top of my head, I believe there's buys right now.
4 teams get a bye into the Pentagon, and then the other 8 have to play for the right to get there.
Yeah. And so right now, if that happened, you would go to Winona, and that's not exactly the place you'd want to roll to. Whereas potentially playing a St. Cloud State or going to a UMD or a Wayne, like maybe not going to Wayne, maybe not making that drive to Wayne. That might not be the best.
Well, there's still a lot of time left in the season for all those teams, especially that are literally jam-packed in that area of the standings.
7, there's 3
I mean,
there.
Within a weekend, those can change in an instant. For the Beavers, you still have time, but they are a solid 3 games back right now of a home playoff game in the first round of the NSIC tournament. So they would have to get really hot and probably look to win 6 or 7 games minimum of this last 8 to try to get into that spot. With the schedule they have, I'm not saying it's impossible. If they've started to figure things out, they're coming off of a win, maybe they can get it done. But today, Tuesday and Thursday games this week. And then they have another game Oh yes. Jeez. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. They have another game next Tuesday.
Now. Yeah.
I was looking at the February 4th game for Crookston and thinking that was the one that was tonight. And then I'm like, well, no, they don't play again until February 8th. Yeah. So 2 games this week.
In the schedule.
Another game next.
Is because obviously the conference is unbalanced right now and they're waiting for Jamestown to come in next year. So that's why you're playing Crookston like kind of on their own a little bit because, that was your travel partner forever and ever. And, anyway, so that's and then you have Northern that's kind of there with the whatever. So it's Tuesday. Then they played Thursday, January 30th, and then they play Tuesday, February 4th. So they don't play a game at all over the weekend. And then on February 8th, which is a Saturday, they're at Northern. That's the only game of the weekend. And then it's back to Friday, Saturday on the road at Augustana, at Wayne State. And then you're at home for the final weekend of the year against Concordia St. Paul, which is going to be tough. Like that is a legit team that you're going to need to get ready to go play. But outside of that, everything. I mean, St. Cloud State's the highest team in the conference right now, if you're looking at the standings, that you're going to play for the rest of the year. And you played St. Cloud State over a month ago. They beat you by, the score-wise, it'll say handily, 88-75. Pekarich did play in that game, but remember, that was his very first game back from injury.
Sutherland.
Yeah, excuse me, Sutherland. You're right.
Yep.
So that was his first game back. I know he missed a little bit of time in between there, in between the second stint coming back, but he's played a couple weekends now. He's gotten under his belt. He's comfortable. He's in the flow of the season. I think that does matter. And I think if you can shoot like you did last Saturday, you'll be in a good chance to make an upset down in St. Cloud. So, hey, if you have anything going on a Tuesday night, even though by the time we're recording this, you'll have already watched it. My main point is to get a joke in of, if you got nothing to do in St. Cloud on a Tuesday night, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Not to disparage the good folks of St. Cloud, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
anyways,
women's basketball, by the way, they played over the weekend. They do play in St. Cloud as well. They're kind of stuck in the same schedule that the men's team is in. Over the weekend, though, they were not able to get a victory as they fell in both of their matchups. They lost to, again, a ranked Southwest Minnesota State, 51-77, and then a similar score, 72-54 against Sioux Falls. And now you turn things around and you play at St. Cloud. Again, as of recording tonight, you play on Thursday against UMary, and then the schedule is the exact same as the men, lining up through the rest of the year. So these are, again, some important games for this team. And looking at the women's basketball standings here, getting them pulled up, is to see where Bemidji State currently ranks at 2-12, tied with Augustana. They are 2 games behind Winona State as the next team up on that list. With St. Cloud State, they are sitting kind of in that upper tier in the conference. They are right now, I believe, 6th place at 7, or tied for 6th. That's 7-7. They're tied with UMary and MSU Moorhead. So this is an uphill battle for them, but this is an opportunity to try and get a win. Then you got to turn around and play UMary, who again is in that same spot as St. Cloud State. So this will be a good barometer as kind of where this team is for the last final 8 games of the year. And kind of, again, we saw this team start to pile up some wins as the year came to a close last year. If they can do that again, they'll maybe be able to make sure that they can sneak into that tournament.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very important stretch here. These are 2 teams, like you said, CJ, 500 in the conference. That's not unbeatable. You never know. Upsets happen. It was a tough shooting weekend this last weekend for the Beavers, and it's going to make it hard to pull off some upsets against a pretty good team in, like you said, a ranked Southwest Minnesota State. And then Sioux Falls, again, they're kind of in that same, jam-packed, trying to get home playoff game. They're currently the first team out. These actually would be the first 3 teams out, will be the last 3 teams the Beavers have played once Thursday comes in Sioux Falls, UMary, and St. Cloud State. So, yeah, anything you can do to try to pick up some wins here coming down towards the end of the season would be awesome. They play, of course, tonight at 7:30, a couple hours after the men's team starts, and then they'll wrap up. And then same thing against University of Mary at 7:30. That's on Thursday. So, yeah, should be interesting. That those games against Mary are in Bemidji. So, if you're interested in going to those, they will be at home. They are on Thursday, so they're not interfering with any hockey schedule this weekend, which I know men's at least is at home. I don't remember if the women are at home or not, but Thursday night, if you want to get to a game at the BSU Gymnasium, got a couple of winnable games for the Beavers this weekend.
Exactly. Head on out to the BSU Gymnasium. Check that out. Looking over at women's hockey, Ian, looking at their schedule and what's coming up as my computer decides that now's the time to take a crash here for women's hockey.
Minnesota State.
Yep. Then that is at home, of course.
It's at home, yes.
It's the Buc-ee's Pantry canned food drive presented by Lukens, yes. So
yeah. Last time I saw the Lukens Village Foods logo pop up next to a hockey team game, it was it definitely ended well, I think, right? Just a couple of weeks ago at home against Northern Michigan. That was a good game, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Of course. Yeah, nothing bad ever happened there. And in fact, a lot of food was donated to the community, which was very
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best thing about that night.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Maybe did they do a skate with the Beavers? At least we could maybe some kid got to.
They didn't. When we get to men's hockey, we will talk about that because they are doing that this weekend. It's back on Saturday. But yeah, women's hockey. They played in Hockey Day, Minnesota on Saturday. That's kind of the highlight of the weekend for them. And they unveiled some beautiful new jerseys. I don't know what you thought of those, CJ.
Perfect. 10 out of 10. No notes. Great.
I don't know if you want to do a little bit of an on-air production meeting, but you can go to Lucas's Twitter page maybe and pull up the photo of him so the people that are watching this can see.
I was working on finding the image.
Were you? Okay.
I was looking on the webpage, but
he's way ahead of me.
Yeah,
Lucas does have it on his Twitter, but
Lucas, they were Beaver territory, friend of the podcast, all that good stuff.
They were gorgeous, man. I really like them. I'm an alternate jersey guy. I mean, it's part of the reason that I kind of like Oregon football because as a kid, like I was one of those kids that got suckered into liking a team because of the fact that they had like 32 different jersey rotations that they could wear every season. But I love alternate jerseys, and I do like the current alternate jerseys.
Look at them.
Yeah. Look at that. And honestly, guys, they look even better on the ice. If you go to Brent Sizek's Twitter page, he's got some great photos of them too. I should have just told you to pull up his Twitter because he's got great like on ice images of the team, and they look even better like when they're on somebody and on the ice. They just look amazing. So I'm a really big fan. I like that the brown is kind of it's a little bit lighter than a Beavers pelt, but I think brown kind of works as like a tertiary color for the school. A lot of teams will try to use black as like their alternate color because it kind of just goes with everything. But I think the brown could be something really nice to lean into for the Beavers if they wanted to do an alternate jersey. And I know that they're going to be planning on using these. We've heard maybe through the grapevine as more than just a temporary jersey. I think it was Jared that brought up the fact that
look at these on the ice.
Yeah, they didn't use the Hockey Day patch on them specifically because they wanted to save them and use them for other occasions. So
what would that occasion be, you think, Ian?
I don't know, probably just a permanent alternate jersey that they could wear. I love them. I really do. They look slick. Those hats too, by the way, that those goaltenders are wearing up there on the top
with the block photo. Letter B. Yes,
those need to be made available for sale.
Yeah,
those need to be available. I'm worried because I'm going to spoiler alert. I don't know. Probably nobody cares that much, but I will be in attendance for the hockey games this weekend in Bemidji. And I swear, I really hope that they don't have these jerseys for sale at the Sanford Center because I don't know if I can resist walking out of the Sanford Center without one. So I doubt they will be on sale. I hope they do eventually become something
that Ian, they're going to get one from the locker room and they're going to put like a $5,000 sticker on it and they're just going to watch you like.
And I'm going to have no choice. It's just.
And then you're going to leave with one, and then all of a sudden there's going to be like the Ian Rivers drinking fountain or something like that over the stadium because you just bought them a new water fountain or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, but these jerseys were unfortunately the highlight of the weekend, and of course the fact that they got to play on Hockey Day, Minnesota against the Gophers. But a couple of tough games. 4-1 loss on Friday. Wasn't that one-sided? Like it was a close-ish game. They didn't get boat raced out of the water. And then it just was a slow start on Saturday in that game. They gave up 2 goals in the first period and another goal pretty early in the second period. Morgan Smith got one back on the power play on Hockey Day. So that's cool for her. A memory she's going to carry with her for probably the rest of her life, being able to score outdoors at Valley Fair against the Gophers on Hockey Day. But it just wasn't enough from that point on. And the Gophers were able to hold on for a 3-1 victory. So no points again for the women's team, but a decent chance coming home, playing the 6th place team in the conference, Minnesota State. Games are Friday, Saturday at 3:02 p.m. and 2:02 p.m. against the Mavericks. So decent chance this weekend to try to pull off some conference wins because Mankato got the better of you in Mankato earlier this season. So again, just like you said with men's basketball, there might be a little revenge that they want to get on home ice, and we'll see if they're wearing their brand new jerseys at all. Like I said, I like the alternates they have now with the script. I get the people that out there that love the block lettering because it's a classic, and I do think it looks good. Like, I have a block lettering white jersey. I'm wearing the script green one right now that I don't believe they wear anymore, but I love the script whites. I love the shoulder patches on those jerseys too. This is fun. It's fun every once and then to have a different colored jersey. I know the old cream ones that they used to wear back in like 2015 as an alternate every once and then are very polarizing. People either love them or hate them. I tend to not love them that much. I liked the shield that was on the front because that was, again, it was just different and the color was different. And no, it wasn't my favorite color ever, but I think it worked just because every once and then you got to see something different on the ice. So,
well, and I think that's what makes the brown ones work too. It's not that brown is always the most aesthetically pleasing uniform color. It's the fact that it's different and it kind of makes it stand out a little bit. And of course, Bemidji State Beavers, I mean, that's their fur is brown. And also you're in Bemidji, which is the Northwoods, which is a lot of green and brown for trees like that. It just works without having to get without getting too complex. Just, it works as a secondary color for an alternate uniform that you'll run for a few years. I think it's just really cool that they get to showcase a different one. And if they're made for sale, or those hats for sure,
yes.
I will not be held accountable for what will happen to my bank account.
I know you can hear me, athletic department. Put them on sale,
or at the very least, give us a Beaver Banter special or something like that, and we'll be your best friends forever.
Shout you out, or we'll get people on the horn to buy your merch.
We are not reduced to taking bribes or being bought. Or like we're media guys. We are mass comm majors. I work in media. Like it doesn't, I don't make enough money to be able to justify not getting free stuff thrown in my face. So like,
right.
If there's something out there for us, we are not above or below taking it and then also doing what you want us to do.
Right.
The favor that comes with that, the string that is attached.
Yeah. I mean, one more little comment, I guess, on the jerseys is that I like the brown color that they use. Like you said, it's a little bit similar to this. It's a lighter brown. I think that it works. It's a goldenish kind of brown, and it works really well, especially with how they constructed it on this jersey with the green and the white accents. I think if you wanted to use a darker brown as like a alternate color for a different type of alternate jersey, you could do it. I don't think you'd be able to make the dark brown the main color of it, though. I think if you use dark brown as like an accent color on a green jersey or something, there is a way that I think you can make that look good. But I really like these jerseys. And I'm hoping, CJ, if we want to transition now to men's hockey, I don't want to jump right to this next weekend, but there is a surprise supposed to come this weekend against Ferris State. And based off of everything that we've seen, we're hoping that it's an alternate jersey for the men. If it's not going to be the same one that the women have, the plaid that was in that original teaser tweet that they put out would be a very, very fun idea for an alternate jersey, especially an alternate jersey for obviously it's their high school, that is the Lumberjacks, but maybe a little bit of a plaid would be kind of a fun idea. I know Northern Michigan just put out and might have just stolen our whole flow.
I was going to put that tweet out because if you look on their hockey page, I believe it was the hockey page. I'm scrolling to kind of find the tweet and get it up here. It's kind of buried with the games going on over the weekend. Okay, here it is. Here was the tweet that the hockey team put out, and it was just kind of this. With the day of this weekend's game.
It's got the Paul and Babe on it. It's got the plaid.
I mean, it's got to be like, that has to be incorporated somehow. That's the Easter egg that they're leaving us. But yeah, I want to find, because I just saw this with Northern Michigan, where it feels relatively similar.
Lucas did put it in the Discord too. I'll plug the Discord while I'm at it. Go join the Beaver Banter Discord. It's awesome. when things are not going that well, you can vent about Bemidji State sports with the rest of us and how it's not going our way and we wish things would break our way a little bit better. And then when things go well, like they did on Saturday and Sunday for men's hockey and men's basketball, you can rejoice with the rest of the fan base as they snap their long losing streak. And that's the Discord. It's on all of our social media pages, so go join it. The links are all right there at the top, pinned on Twitter and on Facebook. So join that. It's awesome.
So here is what this is NMU, where they have like plaid on the shoulder pads, like you said, and then a plaid underneath the logo. And I don't know how similar they're going to look, but
we don't even know technically if that's what this is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or if they're just doing a giveaway of like beaver themed pajama pants, maybe, or something like that.
Hey, I'd be in on that too. If anybody
wants, this is what we're hoping for. That's all we're getting at. But yeah, I think that's decent. I would honestly, I can't tell if I'd rather have it be just the whole jersey be plaid or not. I don't know if that would.
I don't know if I'd want the whole jersey.
I don't know. I'm so torn on that. Obviously, if they step onto the ice and it looks fantastic, I'll be happy with it. But yeah, again, we also don't even know if they are going to have an alternate jersey. So we'll see. Keep that in mind for this weekend. But
like a whole thing where the whole conference gets like plaid
jerseys
thrown onto like their jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, hey, as long as we get one too, that would be fine with me. You know,
like
something different.
Alternate uniforms are fun because it's not like you're throwing a main one into the rotation. You're not like going out there and saying, "Hey, I want this to be the jersey that's worn all the time." Like, get our old ones out of there. Get rid of tradition. Get rid of history. You're just saying, I kind of want one like thrown in the mix for a short little period of time. I just want, I just want a palate cleanser, just something to at least give me a little something cooler to look at in the short term. And then when that kind of burst wears away, I'm going to come back to the classics with open arms.
Yeah. And honestly, you know how bad an alternate jersey has to be for me to really dislike it? Like that Mankato gray one that they have. I think that's pretty bad. I think I would be pretty disappointed with my, I honestly would be pretty disappointed if my team's colors were purple and orange. But not purple and orange, purple and yellow, purple and gold. Oh man, I'm trying to throw shade at Mankato and the Vikings at the same time, and I butcher the joke. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. We're logging off.
Denver Broncos, man.
Yeah, well, they're not even purple. They're
the orange part.
The orange part, yeah.
Is there a team that is purple and orange?
God, I hope not. I feel like that's a pretty bad color scheme.
That is, it would not be good. Maybe the Mets with Grimace.
Yeah,
that's the closest we got.
But
that's the closest we got.
We played a couple hockey games this weekend, though, CJ, against St. Thomas.
Before we get into those, we should talk a little hockey day because with the fact that the women's did play in the hockey day over the weekend, I do think that the fact that they played it at Valley Fair was a unique kind of way. And I thought, and look, as a guy who lives in greater Minnesota, leave it to me to give props to the cities for doing stuff, but they did a really good job with that. Like Valley Fair is a backdrop. Are you kidding me? Like, why have they not done this more times? Was this the first time it's been in Shakopee? I feel like it is.
I think so. I'm not a hockey day historian, so don't quote me on that, but I do believe it's the first time it's been in Shakopee. I would be shocked if Shakopee was one of the only dual. Like, right. I get it's a decent hockey town, but it's not like,
No, exactly.
Like Bemidji, like a very great hocky town. Like
it's
Bemidji
not when they're like, hey, we're going up to War Road or something like that for obvious reasons, or Roseau, or we're going up to whatever. Name your spot. But I mean, it's so cool to have a backdrop like that. It makes perfect sense because the infrastructure is already there. There's already parking. There's already buildings set up. You don't have to make a whole hockey venue from whole cloth. You just basically have to get a rink up and some bleachers and you're pretty much good to go. But the backdrop of that, seeing all the goals scored and then seeing Wild Thing or seeing, Steel Venom in the background, it's a really cool dynamic. And I think that everybody knocked it out of the park who was all involved with that.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really, really cool to see that it was actually at Valley Fair. It'd be difficult because how many other towns have very unique backdrops that they could do. Like you said, it's set up perfectly because there is the infrastructure there. Like it would be somewhat similar to Bemidji trying to shove a hockey rink somewhere downtown by Paul and Babe. Like if they could make that work somehow, like that would have been unique as a backdrop. But it would have been hard to put a hockey rink there and still have parking at the same time. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, but Shakopee was able to pull it off. And hopefully this kind of inspires more people in the future to find a unique area of their town to do it at, and not just somewhere that also, makes sense logistically.
Like a speedway of some kind?
Yeah, there could be one at maybe a speedway that also has a bunch of parking, which I don't actually think would be that surprising if that happened. If we want to, break that news, it's not breaking news. You're not going to learn about it on this podcast.
We broke it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm sure you know about it.
Bemidji State, of the Bemidji Pioneer. This Bemidji State hockey, but
Hockey Day's coming to Brainerd, which is a unique opportunity for northern Minnesota to host Hockey Day again. This has been an ongoing chat, both online and in the Discord. Twitter and Discord have been going nuts with the northern Minnesota being in Brainerd. And of course, as our good friend Lucas said, I have the excuse of growing up south of Brainerd by about 2 hours. Our good friend Jared Roboto of the Bemidji Pioneer does not have that excuse. So he apparently does not get to consider Brainerd northern Minnesota, but I get a pass. I get a pass on that.
It's technically where I'm from. It's technically like eastern Minnesota, I guess, because I grew up like an hour west of there. Spent my summer jobs in Brainerd and spent a lot of time at BIR. Going to like Wednesday nights, they would do like the open invitation where they, like in the summertime, they just invite people to go and like try and get their car on the drag, and you get to try and go run it out there. That was my first taste of it. But then my summer jobs, I spent the whole time, a lot of time in Brainerd over BIR weekend at the racetrack. And let me tell you that do not turn left if you're trying to exit BIR on Hockey Day weekend. You're getting on 371. Do not turn left. You will be there forever. You will be there forever. But besides that, BIR, I think, is a great spot to host it. I put this out on Twitter over the weekend when the announcement was first made. And a Hockey Day at BIR would go kind of hard. Like, it'd be kind of fun. You talk about unique venues, and it's a drag racetrack. So it's, it's not like you have the whole lap around and you get to do it inside the circle and stuff. It's a drag race, which means it's just a strip. But also, you have bleachers there. You have some stuff set up. You have concession buildings. You have bathrooms. You have suites built up. Because, of course, if you don't know, Brainerd International Raceway is a part of the National Hot Rod Association. They do a drag race tour. And like the first weekend in August every year is when Nationals swings by through Brainerd. And that's a very big deal for this area. ESPN comes to town, or I believe Fox broadcasts it now. It doesn't really matter. But that's a big deal for them, and to get to be a part of that. So this is a racetrack that's held some big events before. They have stuff set up for it, and that really helps. And I think the fact that this has to be the first time Brainerd's ever gotten a Hockey Day, to get to do it at BIR would be really, really cool. And Ian, we talked about this before we hit record. I'm going to be danged to heck if Bemidji State does not get this game. If they make it St. Cloud State and UMD, I'm going to scream.
Yeah, I think it would be a unique opportunity to do St. Cloud and Bemidji both. It's a kind of a halfway point between those two cities, depending on what route you take. I think that would be a unique opportunity. I think a lot of people on our Discord are hoping for that as well. And it would be, a unique opportunity for Bemidji State to get to experience another Hockey Day in some capacity. So I think that would be awesome. I think that would be fun.
State, Minnesota, aren't they?
Yeah, or St. Cloud State versus like some random team. They're not even going to pick an in-state matchup. It'll be like St. Cloud State versus Western Michigan or something like that. But...
They're going to pull up Omaha for the occasion or something like that. It's like, cool, man.
Arizona State. That would be actually kind of sick if they made Arizona State play outside.
Hockey Day, and then they had
kind of
listen to us talk about how much we love hockey all weekend.
Yeah.
They'd get out of there so fast. It would be great. It'd be fun. But actually now you're going to put ideas in their heads to the committee that they're going to invite Arizona State. They're going to invite Manitoba to come down. I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool venue. I'm excited that Brainerd gets to do it. The fact that it's one of the first ones that Brainerd High School, I believe their women's hockey team, they're combined with Little Falls. Their men's hockey team is there for high school. But so they have some hockey stuff, but it's not, when you think of the Blue Bloods, some of that stuff, it's a school that doesn't have a Division I hockey program. It doesn't have, Central Lakes College is the only higher education in that town, and it's a tech school. They don't have hockey there. So outside of Brainerd Warrior and Brainerd Little Falls hockey, like that's what they have in that area. So to get to see them get to host a hockey day, I think is cool, because usually it's one that has a pretty high profile high school, or it has a college program in that town. And not to upset anybody who's a fan of Brainerd or Brainerd Little Falls hockey, but in terms of the, people think of War Roads, they think of the Hermantowns, they think of the Moorheads when they think of greater Minnesota. Brainerd maybe isn't always the first one that comes to mind. So it's really cool that they're going to have their chance to show out like this. And the reason I think it'll be Minnesota St. Cloud State, because they're going to go, St. Cloud is in Brainerd's backyard, we'll give it to them. And heck, half of the Twin Cities end up going up to Brainerd over the summer anyways. They're going to know how to get there.
Yeah, we'll see. That's still quite a ways out. It's 2027 Hockey Day, Minnesota.
Where does it go in 2026?
I don't remember.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but yeah, interesting. Hopefully,
Hastings, I think.
What's that?
I think they said Hastings.
Okay, sure. Why not?
So there you go.
Totally fine.
There we go. Perfectly acceptable. All right, let's talk men's hockey here. And they broke the streak. They got a win for like a solid standalone regulation victory for the first time in, I had the stat pulled up, but now I lost my page. It's been a while.
It was eight games without a win in any capacity other than exhibition. And it was December 6th was the last win before this against.
If you count the shootout win on January 11th, then it's only 4.
Well, I don't. So, yeah, December 6th against Lake Superior State was the last true win in regulation or overtime that they had outside of the Manitoba exhibition. But, yeah, it's good to get off that snide. Friday was a frustrating game for sure. It felt like a game that we've seen many times this season where the Beavers were kind of in it, and you're like, oh, cool, because last year's team would pull these games out and they would win these games. And so it's frustrating that now this year things have just not gone this team's way for whatever reason. And you lose a 3-2 game where you're in it late, tied 2-2, and you kind of outplayed them, you felt like, for stretches of that third period. Yeah, I mean, it was early in the game. You go down on a Ryan O'Neill goal. Jackson Jutting answers on the power play. After getting his first goal taken off the board, he answers with another one on the power play that was not going to get saved by anybody. How do we feel about the
one that got waved off? Controversial, yay or nay?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the fact that they could call it offsides. It's frustrating for sure that they not only didn't call it offsides on the ice and then still overturned it, but they overturned it from being offsides. You hope that sometimes some of those are, when they're close calls like that, they just stick with it. But I don't think that there was no evidence that it wasn't offsides. So that wasn't necessary. That was not the reason that you lost the game. Certainly a review in the first period when you scored a goal a minute later anyways. But yeah, Jake Brasini, who I believe is a Buffalo native, shout out, in the second period, added a power play goal for St. Thomas. And then Jackson Jutting added another goal for the Beavers to make it 2-2 8 minutes later. And then in the third period, things are kind of going back and forth. You're got about 8 minutes left of the game, and Adam Fleming makes a tough hit on the edge wall, and it's just not the smartest hit you've ever seen somebody do, especially given the circumstances. A tie game, you're pretty late into the game. And against a team with a very good power play in St. Thomas, you don't want to give them a 5-minute major. And unfortunately, that's what this was. It was frustrating that this got overturned and not overturned, but this got reviewed and made a major. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th review for a major penalty in the game. And it was the only one that actually got a major call out of it, I believe, which was frustrating. But again, I don't think it was necessarily like a bad call. It just was annoying that that's the only one that got it in the game. And the more frustrating part is that you killed off 4 minutes and 55 seconds of this 5-minute major.
You were
and then gave up a goal with 5 seconds left in the power play. And obviously the time that they score in this power play doesn't matter because it's a major and it doesn't go away like a normal one would after they score a goal. So yeah, 5 seconds in or 5 seconds left, it wouldn't have mattered. But it is very frustrating to think, oh my God, we're just going to have all this momentum after killing a 5-minute major against a team with a great power play unit. And then we can maybe go into overtime or steal a goal before overtime and steal some points. And then you weren't able to do that. They had a couple good chances at the end, but they lose 3-2. And it's just frustrating because, again, you just feel like you've watched that game over and over at points this season. And it adds to your losing streak of 8 straight games, and you don't know where the light is going to come at the end of the tunnel because
it's like you said too, like this team, that 5-minute major, I mean, obviously give up the goal in there, you lose by 1 goal. And it's not like this is a team full of freshmen and sophomores where you're like, they're just learning. Like this is a pretty experienced team, and it's just a little uncharacteristic.
A lot of penalties. They took a lot. UST had, now this is a little skewed because there was a weird situation where St. Thomas went on a power play, then they went on a 5-on-3, then the Beavers drew a penalty, and so it was 4-on-3 for a while, then it was 4-on-4 for a while, and then the Beavers had like a 13 or 25-second power play. So it was a really weird situation in there, but totaling all of that, the Tommies had 7 power plays in the game, and they went 2 for 7 on the power play in that game. And of course, that doesn't tell the whole story because 2 of these were very shortened power plays. One of them was 49 seconds. The other one was 1:05. And then another one for 1:20. But yeah, it's just, you can't do that against a team like St. Thomas. And like you said, CJ, it's such an experienced roster. And to take all these penalties is just not. And you look at the players that are taking the penalties. Austin Jopi, 5th-year senior. Tony Fulmer, senior. Eric Martin, 5th-year senior. Mitch Wolf is a junior, I believe. Issa Parek is a freshman. Tony Fulmer again. And then Flamang, who is a junior. So it's frustrating to see these older players get into positions like this so often. And this is not even to say, like 4 of these penalties, CJ, were because they got in bad spots defensively and gave up a breakaway, and they had to haul down the player in front of them with a tripping penalty or a hook. Like they just gave up so many breakaway opportunities, and yeah, they stopped them. And I think one time it turned into a goal on the power play, but they just can't keep putting themselves in that situation. And it's the two halves of the same thing, because like you talked about, it's felt like that this team, whether it's the penalties or whether it's the putting yourself in a position to commit a penalty. I mean, in a basketball game, let's say, if you allow a guy to get a fast break opportunity, you're going to have to foul him. And it's that kind of thing where it hamstrings you. And it's the fact that you're letting yourself get in that position to get a breakaways. And again, it just is the thing of, this is an experienced team. And it's some of that stuff where with the Coach Serratori team, it feels so uncharacteristic, especially, in general, just with allowing the breakaways, a lot of penalties, but especially with the experience that they have and how many years they've been. And, whether it's ice time or whether it's years, just in general, what year you are, it's very weird. And I get it. It could just be everybody's got off games throughout the season. And like, that just can be a game where it just went wrong and you'll come out the next week and maybe they'll correct it a lot. But it feels like throughout the season, we've just seen a lot of that where it's like, how does the opponent get a lot more than they should breakaway opportunities from a Serratori coach team? Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. But moving on to the positive side of the weekend, Sunday's game at 3:07 p.m. They won 2-1 and got a very, very big 3 points in the CCHA standings. We'll try to move along a little quick here. We're running out of time, I do believe, on this episode. But Casper Magnuson, power play goal. I believe he has 3 or 4 goals on the season. I think it's 3, and all of them are power play goals. So get Casper out there on the power play. He's gonna bury him, especially lately. And that was all the way in the first period. And from there, pretty drab, 0-0 from there, all the way through to the halfway point of the third period, where you start to clench your teeth again because Chase Cheslock gets a goal for the Tommies, and it's like, no, dude,
feels like
come on. And Lucas made a good point, our friend from Beaver Territory, in the Discord during the game. You weren't going to win this 1-0. You have to put more goals in the back of the net. You cannot rely on your goaltender and your defense to just hold the fort down when you're up 1-0 every single time you get a lead. Thankfully, Eric Martin says, no, we want the lead. We're going to hold on to it. Almost immediately, 44 seconds after that goal, Eric Martin buries one, courtesy of Riley Funk and Patrick Satasari. And from there, the Beavers held on and won 2-1. They still are not very good at hitting empty nets. They really don't even try. I don't even know if they had like more than one half of an attempt to get the puck into the net. And it just stresses me out, man. Like, yeah, they play so often just for like hold possession and then they did a really good job on the major power play, by the way, the night before. I want to make a comment on that. For a long time, they had like a minute sustained possession where they would take the puck into the Tommy zone and then they would throw it all the way back to their own goal. And then the next defender would come up. They did a really good job for a while. And it's like, yeah, that's great to do when you have the lead in the empty net, but try to hit that net every once and then. I get it. The icing is not ideal, especially when you're tired and you then have to take another offense or defensive zone face off. But yeah, man, if you could hit the net on the empty net situation, it'd be awesome. But yeah, Bemidji State now, that's just a huge 3 points because it gives you any sort of hope of staying alive in the home ice race. It's not looking good. And honestly, like CJ, it's really just the NMU weekend. If we were to tell you before the Bowling Green series that you're going to get 3 points on the road from Bowling Green, including 2 gritty come from behind games with 3 extra attacker goals, and then you're going to split with St. Thomas. Obviously, that's frustrating because now you've given them their second Division I era win against you, and you don't want that to happen. You love the fact that you just dominated them. But I think you take 3 points on the road from those 2 teams, and then you assume, okay, yeah, we probably got 5 or 6 points from Northern Michigan. And even if we had just gotten 4 points from that weekend, CJ, we would be just a few points back of Bowling Green for that 4th and final home ice spot right now. And it's now you're 7 points behind that home ice. I said it in the Discord. If we go into this weekend against Ferris State and we come out with 6 points, I'm still going to believe that there's a chance that we can climb up to home ice because Michigan Tech is by no means elite, and that's who we would play, I believe, the next weekend following Ferris State. And then you have a bye week, and then you come home for Bowling Green, and that would be a huge weekend, who is the team currently in 4th place. So if you could take a majority points from that, obviously then you have to play Mankato, who is going to be guns a-blazing trying to get an at-large bid for the NCAA tournament, even if they have the conference wrapped up by then, which they might not, they're still going to be playing hard because they're trying to get an at-large bid at the bare minimum if they can't win the Mason Cup. So it's going to be tough. But yeah, right now the Beavers currently sit in 7th place in the conference. Lake Superior State right now weirdly sitting above the Tommies with
as a percentage.
because they've not played in as many games. That's right.
Yep.
I thought that everybody had, and it's because Augustana played a conference series this weekend, so somebody had to have one off, and it was Lake Superior State. So yeah, that makes total sense. The Beavers are in 7th. If they get 6 points this weekend, they would be just under the 500 mark. They'd be 8-9-3 in the conference. And then, of course, you still have a ways to go from there. But I think if you can win 3 straight games, this team might start to buy in again and maybe can go on the road to Houghton and try to steal. I mean, it would still be really tough. You got to just take it a game at a time at this point. And honestly, at this point, try to get into the top 6. That's kind of where I'm bare minimum at, because then you avoid Minnesota State or Augustana in the first round of the conference tournament. And then you also avoid finishing 7th in the conference, which would be a huge black stain coming off of a conference championship the year before. So,
well, exactly. The other thing though is you want to make sure Bowling Green is below a 4 seed, because if you go to Slater Ice Arena, historically, that's maybe not the most ideal.
True. Yeah. I mean, you'd still want a good matchup, but I still think that on paper, you'd rather play Bowling Green than Augustana. Maybe not, because Augustana's just never been in that playoff situation before. But yeah, Slater is a tough place to play, especially in a playoff atmosphere. But yeah, at this point, you're kind of just taking it game by game. And then once the Mason Cup playoffs come, hopefully you're in a decent spot to get. I mean, at this point, you're 15 points ahead of Northern Michigan because they got swept this weekend. So you're pretty safely into the field at this point.
Michigan?
Yeah, apparently, according to Michigan Tech, you are. So, yeah. But anyways, we're nearly out of time, and we still have to mention the fact that softball starts this weekend, CJ. So, again, it's not even February. It will be by the time they start. But yeah, February 1st, they play 2 games, and February 2nd, they play 2 games in the Husky Dome in St. Cloud. Those are against Southwest, St. Cloud, Duluth, and then St. Cloud again. So 4 games to kick off the season super early. And then, of course, they have 3 weeks off before they play their next game. But it's always just crazy, seeing how early this season starts.
You get a few games under your belt, you figure out what you need to work on, and then you go to Illinois. To the air-supported dome, and then you go to Florida for another one, and then you get into the bulkier season come late March. But yeah, that's 2 months from now before they even start conference play, but their schedule is starting up. It's crazy. I can't believe they do that. And baseball is 2 weeks away. That's crazy too.
Tennis is right around the corner too. Of course, that's played indoors, so it's not necessarily a springtime necessary sport, but yeah.
Right. The fact that we're
sports coming around the corner, super weird.
We're moving into some of that territory. One more thing, too, before we go, should mention women's track and field. Over the weekend, they had the opportunity to compete at the Cobber Open, which was over in Moorhead. And again, just some of the stuff that went on there in their meet as I try and wrap things up here. They had a few top 5 finishes over there. McKenna Patron and Maya Wagner took 1st and 5th in their weight throw finals, as well as a couple other things. There was a 4x4 relay team of Josie Aiken, McKenna Frazier, Haley Selly, and Kylie Morton, who finished 4th in that, and a couple other things as well. So congratulations to them. I think that's pretty much it. We had a lot to talk about today. Hopefully we have a lot of good stuff again next week to talk about. We can stack some wins on top of each other and get this thing rolling. The one thing I'll say for hockey, they're going to get a sweep at some point this season. It just has to happen. So might as well be this weekend. Why not us? Why not now?
I wouldn't say that too confidently, man. It's been a while since we've had one.
The law of averages. The
last sweep that we've had was against the University. Oh, no. We did sweep Ferris State, I guess, in the first round of the playoffs. The last regular season sweep we had was last year to hoist the McNaughton Cup over Minnesota State. So it's been a long time, and it would be very refreshing. I had a great record at the Sanford Center last year, at least in terms of exciting games to be at. So at the very least, I'm sure these games will be exciting, and hopefully, like you said, the outcome is a favorable one for the Beavers.
Exactly. That's going to do it for us. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Ian Rivers. It's the Beaver Banter Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time. Roll Beavs.